In this video, I'm going to present to you 10 surprising, probably shocking facts about women, and this will definitely offend some people. Understanding women better is going to help you be more successful with them, help you relate better to them, help you walk through the world better, because basically half the world is full of women. So without further ado, this is 10 controversial, possibly shocking truths about women. Controversial truth number 1. Women don't take sex as seriously as men do. And I know already half of you are jumping out of your seats. I can see it through the camera right now. You want to object. You want to tell me I'm wrong. And probably the most likely reason you want to tell me I'm wrong is because typically it seems that men are the one pursuing sex from women. Women are the one holding back. So if women don't take sex very seriously, why would they hold back? Why would they resist men's advances? And I can understand where you're coming from, but let me explain, and I can also explain why this is not a contradiction. Here are the ways in which I mean women don't take sex as seriously as men. Number 1, when it comes to cheating in a relationship, women care very much about emotional cheating. They care very much about where you spend your time, your energy, your money, those kind of things. Women don't care nearly so much about physical cheating, and this has biological roots. Because for a man, if his woman cheats on him, she could get pregnant with another man, and that's a pretty serious consequence for him. For a woman, if a man cheats with another woman in the savannas of Africa when they don't have alimony and child support, gets her pregnant, comes back to woman number 1 and takes care of the babies and is a good husband, she doesn't actually really care much that he went and got another woman pregnant. It doesn't actually really matter too much in that context to the survival of her offspring. But what would matter a lot to her is if he was devoting time and energy and resources to another woman. So women care a lot about emotional cheating. Men care a lot about physical cheating. Women don't take physical cheating nearly as seriously as men do. Therefore, they don't take sex in general nearly as seriously as men do. But they do care about the emotional side. My second reason for saying this is fairly anecdotal, and it comes from my experience as a dating coach dealing with a lot of clients, and it's this. Women seem to be, from my experience and the experience of my clients, far more willing to move on from a relationship that is sexual than men. They cling to the relationship far less. They're less attached to it. And this probably is down to the fact that a woman can find a new sexual partner, a new mate, much easier on average than a man can. But it is shocking to me as someone who grew up in the Western world with Disney movies and believed what I believed up until the moment that I discovered game, how quickly and easily women do drop men they've had sex with, and how much men, by comparison, seem to cling to those relationships. Now, this may not be directly down to attitude around sex, but functionally, women are way quicker to move on, not return a text, not even see a guy after a one-night stand, that sort of stuff, than men are on average, which did surprise me when I saw it, but I saw it over and over and over again to the point that I do believe it now. Now, when I say women take sex less seriously than men, I am not saying it is easier to persuade a woman to have sex than it is to persuade a man to have sex. That would not be true at all. There are plenty of legitimate reasons, legitimate objections that women have around sex. And so what I would say is men are taking sex much more seriously. Men are much more sexually motivated. Men are thinking about sex more, but they're also much clearer about their motivation and intention. Most men are treating sex very, very seriously, but they're very clear about the fact they want to have sex. Women are taking sex much more capriciously, but they're a lot more on the fence about whether or not they want to have it. So their motivation to sex is a lot less, but they also don't treat the actual sexual act as big of a deal as men do. Fact number 2, attraction is not a choice. When a woman sees a man doing attractive things, she will become attracted to him. This is true whether she is married, whether she has a boyfriend, whether she's single. She will still get attracted. Simultaneously, if a woman logically would like to get attracted to a certain man and he's acting unattractively, she will not get attracted. She cannot turn her attraction on or off by choice. It simply is a thing. Now, there is a very big difference between who a woman is attracted to and who she may sleep with. There are a lot of other factors involved. So let's say that a woman is married or has a boyfriend. She may meet an attractive man. That attractive man may be trying to sleep with her. She may still respond negatively and not sleep with that man for a variety of reasons. Either because her moral code and conscience and self-identity prevents her from doing it, or oftentimes simply because she's afraid of being caught. She's afraid of ruining or damaging a relationship where there is a lot of history, a lot of investment, and so the risk isn't worth it for her. So just saying that attraction is not a choice does not mean that cheating is not a choice, or does not mean that women will always cheat or they can't be faithful or can't be loyal. But attraction is not a choice. Attraction is something that's happening on a subconscious level, on a visceral, biological level. It's not something that women are consciously deciding. They're not doing some kind of math problem to figure it out with their conscious, logical thought. By the way, as long as we're keeping this video shocking and controversial, just because I talked about how she might not cheat when she's attracted, let's be clear, she might cheat when she's attracted as well. Fact number 3, and yes, I cannot wait for the comments on this one, but money mostly doesn't help you with women, and in fact, in many cases, money actually hurts your chances with women. That's right, having more money can actually make it harder to get women. Let me explain. When deciding whether to have sex with a man, women put him in one of 2 categories. They put him in a category we call lover, meaning they want to sleep with him because he has good genetics and would provide good genes to their offspring, and they're not as worried about him sticking around and being a father. Or they put him in the category of provider, which means he would be a good father, would stick around, would raise the children well. And the characteristics of one and the other are opposite, and women have a choice. They can try and settle for the man who is the best combination of lover and provider. They can just get the best possible genes and then take their chances in life. Or they can settle with a guy who they know will be a reliable provider and then cheat on him with the guy who is the lover and get their genes there. Those are viable reproductive strategies for women. And you absolutely can sleep with women by presenting yourself as the lover and being in that category. You can absolutely sleep with women by putting yourself in the provider category. However, the way that they sleep with you and the nature of your relationship, the nature of your courtship and your dating will be dramatically altered by one or the other. Let me give you an anecdote of something that has happened to me personally on several occasions in my dating history. I meet a woman out and there's a lot of sexual chemistry. We're making out, we're touching each other, we're going home together. It's basically a foregone conclusion. We're going up to her place or my place and sex is about to happen. We've both pretty much tacitly agreed to it. And then during this period, I just happened to tell the girl a little about my life, and it happens to make me seem a little more stable and successful than I was a second ago. Now, this is not something that lowered my value. It's something that clearly upped my value in life. But I have had in this exact moment when the girl is about this close to sleeping with me and she hears a provider type high value trait about me, for her to be like, you know what? Why don't you take my number? We should go on a date sometime. And what happened there? What happened there was she had decided to sleep with me within the category of me being the lover type of male archetype. And then she found out I had the provider archetype, and now she's like, oh shit, I want to keep this guy around. This guy could be both, or this guy could be the provider archetype as well as the lover archetype, and I'm not sure which category he's in anymore. And it fundamentally changed her view of me, fundamentally made it harder effectively for me to sleep with her. At least it made her want to put me through more hoops or put me into a category for which there was a greater interview process, let's say. And if this is the case for me, who has studied game and is strongly in the lover category almost always when meeting a woman, imagine how it is for the normal guy. So many guys are going on date after date after date with women. Meanwhile, they may hook up with some other guy and sleep with him within a half an hour of meeting them because that guy has been categorized as lover, whereas the more stable, successful, financially reliable guy has been categorized as provider. Now, just so this point is not misunderstood, I want to clarify a couple things. Number one, money is not inherently hurting you with women. However, it will hurt you if it categorizes you as provider. So let's take the example of spending money on women, maybe buying women drinks. If you're buying women drinks because they're demanding it of you or within the frame that they wouldn't talk to you unless you bought them drinks, that is supplicating, that's putting in the provider frame, and that's going to hurt you. However, if you're buying drinks through the frame that you're with your friends and you're partying and you're just buying her a shot because she's part of the party and it makes your experience more fun and better, then it would actually be okay. Or for example, let's take someone like a Leonardo DiCaprio type of person who hooks up with plenty of girls and has plenty of money, but he is seen as a player. He's not seen as someone who the girl is likely to settle down with. The money is not hurting him because of that frame. The counterpoint to this is, as much as money should be useful to you if used well, you can absolutely succeed without any money. Many of my coaches, many of other guys who I've known who are very, very good in game have been completely, utterly broke to the point that they didn't even know hardly where their next meal was coming from, and they still sleep with the hottest women. Fact number 4, when women are choosing who to sleep with, situation often matters more than quality. And this one I hate. I hate that this is true, but I live in reality, so I must accept that it is. Let me give you some examples of what I mean. Number 1, let's say that there are 2 girls out at a bar or a club, and they have a choice between one guy who is really, truly attractive and has great game, or 2 guys who are fairly attractive and have pretty good game. Who is more likely to be taking those girls home that night? The 2 guys who are pretty good have a better chance than the one guy who is immaculate and amazing. Why? Because the numbers worked out. Because both girls can be happy, and because girls trust and follow girls much more than they trust and follow men. And so if the one guy with really good game is in direct competition with the 2 guys with pretty good game, what's going to happen? Well, the girl he's talking to and into is going to like him more than the other guy. But her friend is going to like the guy's friend and is going to be a strong motivator, is going to be a whisper in her ear, is going to make sure that she has a fun night, and they end up with the 2 mediocre guys instead of the 1 excellent guy. And interestingly enough, this is a corollary of that first point I made, that women take sex less seriously than men. As a man who cares a lot about the quality of who he sleeps with, it's very disenchanting to me, the idea that a woman would settle for a lesser penis inside of her simply because of her friend's approval, but it is the case, sadly. Here's another example of convenience versus quality. This is what I call the foreign filet mignon versus local dog food example. And this is what happens to me a lot as I travel. I meet a girl, we have amazing chemistry, she's madly in love with me for the time we're together, she tells me how amazing I am, she's all over me, but I fly away and I'm in a different city. And I might not be back in her city for 3 months or 6 months or whatever. And a lot of times I come back to the city, we hook up again, come back to the city, we hook up again, but sooner or later, because I'm not there very often, she ends up settling down in a relationship with another guy who's almost always, I think I'm the highest quality guy in the world, so let's just say always, but we'll say almost always, of lower quality in terms of, sexual value, attractiveness value than I am. And in fact, sometimes they will even admit this to me. Sometimes I'll come back and they'll sleep with me anyway, but then they'll tell me they're in a relationship. Or sometimes they'll sleep with me and be like, hey, this is the last time because I'm kind of getting serious with this guy, whatever. But they make a decision to settle down, acknowledging to me and even acknowledging logically to themselves that they're settling for a lesser man because he is more convenient. And that's just the fact. It's sad. It disenchants me. I don't wish it was true, but I live in reality, so I must accept that it is. Very often, circumstance and convenience plays a bigger role than actual quality when women select their mates. Fact number 5 is another one that's going to make you believe women are maybe less sexually selective than you might have thought. And this one is the fact that buying temperature is transferable. What does this mean? Basically, the idea is this. Getting aroused, getting turned on, and deciding to have sex essentially are reflected by chemical changes in the woman's body. And so if she is turned on by one man and then he leaves and another man comes along, she still has those chemicals in her body, and therefore the second man will have an easier time sleeping with her than the first man did. The first man will have done a lot of work to help the second man out. Furthermore, if a woman at some point in the night logically decides, I'm going to go home with this guy, and then the guy bails or her friend pulls her away or something keeps that from happening, she's already logically made that decision and already had those emotional chemicals in her body, and so she is extra primed to meet another man and go home with him that night. Amusing but not so amusing for me anecdote from my early days of game, when I was very good at getting attraction and being polarizing, but not very good at the problem-solving part of taking girls home. My wingman at the time joked to me in a sort of gallows humor way that the best way on earth for someone to get laid would be to follow us around and talk to the girls after us. Because we would get the girls so turned on and then we were fumbling the pole over and over and over again. And you know what? he was right. A similar example of this is that on many, many occasions when I'm winging with students, I have been able to get a girl turned on and aroused by me and then have them hang out with the student and choose to go home and sleep with the student due to her arousal for me. So this is another one of those sorry to tell you facts, but if you really believed that women always choose the most qualified guy for good reasons, it's not true, unfortunately. Under the right circumstances, this transference of buying temperature can lead to women sleeping with men who otherwise they would not even give the time of day to. For fact number 6, I'm going to quote a scientific study, and no, I cannot refer you to the specific study, but I do believe it because it makes sense and it also jives with my personal experience. And here is the fact and here is the study. The fact is, women are much more sexually flexible in terms of what turns them on than men are. And the nature of the study was this. Scientists basically put a bunch of monitors on men and women in various scenarios. They monitored things like their heart rate, their respiration rate, maybe the neural firings in their brain, these types of things, and they put them in various sexual circumstances. They had them effectively watch various sexual acts. They had them watch straight men and women having sex, gay men and women having sex. They had them watch animals having sex, people having sex with animals. They had them watch the whole array of different sexual things, and they measured the physiological response. And what they found was that for men, for the most part, they got aroused by what they're attracted to. All right, so straight men got aroused by straight sex, but did not get really very much aroused by gay sex, not animal sex and all that other stuff. Women, on the other hand, pretty much just got aroused by everything sexual. What does this mean practically? Well, it means a few things. Number one, if you are talking to women, bringing up anything that's sexual in nature in any way is probably fairly effective at turning the conversation sexual, and there's a much wider latitude of topics and areas for which this will be the case. Number two, it means that women are probably a lot more likely and open to have things like threesomes or be bisexual or to have had sexual experiences with women than you would see or might expect as a man. This next fact might not shock you on its surface, but it may well shock you in the degree to which it is true. And the fact is this: women are hyper sensitive to social proof and an offshoot of social proof, which I call sexual proof. What do I mean by this? Women are a lot more likely to believe things about you when they are said by other people, said by media, said by the world, than when they're said by you directly. And this kind of makes sense because it's a lot easier for you to brag about yourself than it is for the world to brag about you, because the world doesn't have a motivation to do that. Or even, it's a lot easier to brag about yourself than it is for a friend to brag about you, because in order to do that, you have to at least find a friend that likes you enough to brag or pay him off or something like that. So social proof is more trustworthy than direct evidence from the person. However, there are extreme cases of this, where a girl, simply because someone was on stage, will literally sleep with him without even knowing his name. Or situations where a girl will go home with someone simply because they're vouched for by someone else without even hardly interacting with that person. So it is shocking the degree to which social proof is trusted. In particular, social proof from other women is very much trusted. You would be surprised how often a girl and a guy are talking and the girl does not want to go home with the guy or is on the fence about going home with the guy, and some other girl encourages her or says a nice thing about him or says she's jealous of her for having the opportunity, something like that, and all of a sudden, snap, the girl is completely down to go home with the guy and have sex with him. So the degree to which women respond to social proof is astronomically high, like shockingly high. Beyond that, there's a thing called sexual proof, which is the idea that someone else of status, someone else who you respect, someone else you think is hot, has slept with someone. That also goes very, very far. And a lot of times a girl may sleep with a guy simply because of who he has slept with in the past, especially if she views the people he slept with before as higher value than her. Next controversial fact of this video, which is going to be a further assault on your hopeless romantic tendencies, is this. If you are in a relationship with a woman, the character of that woman has less to do with the relationship than the amount she is attracted to you moment to moment. From my experience, even the most low character, scandalous, sketchy, shady woman, when they deeply are into a man, will be fiercely loyal, fiercely kind, will bend over backwards for him, will be wonderful relationship partners. And even the most wonderful, loyal, high moral individual women during a breakup or a time when their partner has lost value in their eyes and they feel disdain for him, will be insanely, completely nasty, will be quick to drop him, may cheat, etc. So, how your relationship is moment to moment, the experience of your relationship, and to a large degree, whether it's a good relationship, has to do not with the character of the woman or whether you chose a good partner, as much as have you kept the woman attracted to you? Does she feel a fear of losing you? Does she feel a desire to please you and keep winning you over? Now, this is not to say that you should be capricious about the women you choose to have a relationship with. There are a lot of reasons why it is very important to have relationships with women who are good people and not bad people, and also women who are compatible with you. Here are a few. Number one, if you get into a truly serious relationship and you're going to raise children, that woman's morality is going to be reflected in your children, and that is critically, critically important. So you want to pick good partners. Number two, even though you will see a girl at her best during the relationship's high points and at her worst during the breakup, those best and worsts are relative. The best of an incredible woman is going to be better than the best of many other women, and especially the worst. How you leave the relationship, what she does to you after the relationship, whether she cheats on you on the way out, whether she slashes your tires and tries to ruin your reputation, all of these things are critically important. So the degree to which you receive positives and negatives is very much potentially affected by the character of the woman, but whether or not you do is going to be more affected by how the relationship is going. And finally, on this point, if you believe the idea that you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, do you really want to spend a lot of time with people that are not the right people for you? So the quality of women you choose does matter tremendously, but the relationship moment to moment will have more to do with how the girl's feeling than with who the girl is. This next fact may be the most shocking one on this entire list for most of you, so I apologize in advance, but here it is. Many women, when hooking up with men for the first time, are actually much easier to sleep with without a condom than with one. I know that is fucking shocking. Let me explain. When women are having sex, especially if they have not made a logical, overt decision to do so, they will respond much better to the sex just happening and not seeming to have an agenda, not seeming to have a plan, not seeming to be a situation where the man tried something and they gave in. So in that context, when a man and a woman are fooling around and it just feels good and it feels good and it feels good and then he's inside of her and it just happens, that is congruent with that idea. However, when the man says, hang on, I gotta go get a condom, what does that do to the woman? It makes her say, oh shit, we're having sex. And the condom is something that is not biological, it's not evolutionary, it's a new thing, but it is a logical construct that says we are about to have sex. And it is shocking how often the girl may actually be like, I want you inside me. The man will be like, I gotta go get a condom. The girl goes, no, wait, we can't do this tonight. Which is, to be in that situation, the first few times is like mind-blowing. You're like, what the fuck? I'm a total stranger and you're more willing to have unprotected sex with me than protected sex? What the fuck? But it is true that this happens often, mainly because the condom is a logical construct. Now, this is absolutely not a universal thing. There are many women who have very good habits around condoms, and they will always ask a man to use a condom, and they're very safe and very careful. And oftentimes, interestingly enough, those women actually have more sex, but are actually less risky sexual partners in terms of catching an STD. Oftentimes, it's the girl who hasn't had a lot of sex, is inexperienced, but doesn't have good condom habits, who is actually the bigger STD risk because she has worse behaviors with the guys she actually commits to have sex with. I'm gonna kind of doubly blow your mind on this one. I'm sorry in advance again. This tendency of being more willing to have sex without a condom, because it is around the logical construct of the condom, it's actually an even stronger trend when women have boyfriends or even are married. It's actually more likely that the it just happened factor and not making it a logical construct will make it feel less like they're cheating. And yes, I did say that. Oftentimes a girl will have unprotected sex and it will feel less like cheating to her than having protected sex. I know it's fucking mind-blowing and terrifying, but it is true. Now, number one, I am not saying that you shouldn't use a condom. You should. And in fact, the more willing a girl is to have sex with you without a condom, the more you should insist on using a condom. That's number one. Number two, this is not universal. Like I said, there are many women who are extremely condom responsible. And also, when the woman has decided logically to sleep with you, usually in that case, the condom won't be a factor. It's more when it's kind of in the moment where this will be a factor. And an outgrowth of this, by the way, is if you are going to use a condom, which again you should, try and make it not as big a deal as possible. I actually, when I am doing foreplay on a woman, have ways of taking the condom out and putting it on where it's not a big deal. And even sometimes she doesn't even know it's on. She has to ask me, did you put it on? I'm like, yep, it's down there. So the practical takeaway of this is not for you to not use a condom. It's for you to be smart about condom use. And the final fact of this video, I'm going to say 2 different ways. Way number 1, there's no such thing as a 10. Way number 2, if it helps you understand it better, a 10 is just a 7 who tried. And here's what I mean. Women have so many ways to alter their appearance to make it better that it is very, very hard to actually trust the way a woman looks. Women have makeup. Women have fashion. Women have going to the gym. Women have clothing that alters the way their body looks. Women have plastic surgery, which includes major plastic surgery like implants and also things like Botox, fillers, etc. Fact is, women have so many ways to change their appearance. And so it is very common a girl may look one way at night and another way in your bed the next morning. So what are the practical takeaways of this one? Number 1, don't put girls on a pedestal. Thinking of a girl as a 10 and putting her on a pedestal only makes it harder to attract her, so don't do it. Just realize she's a 7 who tried as opposed to the 7 who didn't try. She is just a girl. She's 99% genetically identical to every other girl who's ever been attracted to you, and putting her on a pedestal is not going to help anything. Treating her like a normal person and being your best self is the best path. Secondly, perhaps this can be a motivator for you to stop rating women and stop judging them so much on their physical appearance. Because if you meet a girl you're truly compatible with who is a 7 or an 8 and doesn't try that hard, get her in the gym, put some makeup on her, and all of a sudden she's a 10, and she also is that person who you had great chemistry with and you liked her personality in the first place. And on another level, if you are going to get into a long-term relationship with women and have children and do that sort of stuff, which I highly recommend, it's one of the greatest experiences in life, at some point they are going to age. So I would put much less emphasis than you probably are currently on women's physical appearance. Yes, you need her to be hot enough to turn you on and for you to want to have sex with her. But over time, if you sleep with the same girl over and over again, whether she's a 7, 8, 9, 10, she just is the girl you've been sleeping with, and the novelty wears off, and you better like her personality because her looks are going to fade. It's not going to be all about that. All right, so appearance is important, but please, please, please don't treat it as the only thing. Put a lot more stock than you might in a girl's personality, and it's probably a lot better to meet the 7 who you get along with, who you can turn into a 10, than to meet the 10 you don't get along with, who's a 7 in your bed the next morning. So those are the points I wanted to make to you. You may have found some of them shocking, surprising, even they may have offended you. That's not the point. That's not why I told them to. I told them to because I think it's important to operate in a world of truth. It's important to have understanding. So I may have presented them in a shocking way, but I do it because I want you to have the understanding. Again, if you want to deal well with women, you want to succeed with women, you want to have healthy relationships with women, it's important you understand women's nature. So hopefully this video has not only shocked and surprised you a little bit, but hopefully it's also enlightened you. Oh, and by the way, just because I think this will be very amusing, tell me your favorite points below, and also if you know anything more controversial that I should have included. I'm really looking forward to the comments on this one. All right, see you next time.